Welcome to the Construction Disruption Podcast, where we uncover the future of design, building, and remodeling.
I'm Ryan Bell of Isaiah Industries, manufacturer of specialty metal roofing and other building materials. Today, my co-host is Todd Miller. Todd, how are you today?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you?
Awesome. I'm doing great as well.
Good.
You have any jokes for us before we get started here?
I've got a quick story.
Okay.
I've been thinking more and more about, what am I going to do in my old age? A lot of people are convinced I'm already there. So I'm trying to figure this out and been trying to think of a hobby. So I've decided to take up coin collecting. I figure the change will do me good.
Probably will.
Have I done that joke before?
I don't think so, but that's pretty good.
Maybe I've just thought it.
Did you come up with that on your own?
Oh, no.
No.
Like I said, I have very little original material.
You never know, though. You have before.
Well, I can talk about metal roofing pretty originally, but this other stuff I'm kind of lost.
Before we get started here, I do want to remind our listeners that we are playing our Challenge Words game. So be on the lookout or keep your ears open for any words that kind of don't flow into the conversation, and we will go over those at the end. Today, our guest is Rob Bertschy, co-founder and chief revenue officer of Construx, a company that's revolutionizing the construction industry with their digitally fabricated building systems. Rob has an impressive background in the industry, and today he'll share insights into how Construx is addressing the issue of housing a growing population with limited resources and a carbon budget. Rob, it's great to have you on the show today. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Ryan and Todd. Appreciate you guys having me on here.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. So let's jump right in. I can't remember exactly where I came across you guys. It was like a promo type video I saw on LinkedIn that another page had posted. But as soon as I saw the video, I was like, oh my gosh, we've got to have these guys on our show because I just thought it was so cool. So can you start by giving us a brief overview of what you do at Construx, what it is, and kind of what sets you apart from traditional construction methods?
Absolutely. We're approaching the problem, the housing shortage, in a way where we feel we're not able to build enough homes. There's a shortage. Cost is one thing, but we simply just can't keep up. So, and that's due to a couple, reasons. One of them being the skilled labor shortage. And so that's the problem we set out to tackle is increasing the number of starts that can be done by developing a system, a building block system that allows homes to be framed up to 4 times faster. So builders that are able to build 20, 30, 40 homes a year, now we're offering the opportunity to be able to double that output with a much higher certainty of outcome.
Is that the kind of housing shortage? Is that kind of what inspired the creation of Construx, or did it start as something else and kind of evolve to this point?
I mean, yeah, it started as, we, all of us have been, had worked in construction and understood the problems. My co-founder, Nicholas, he had a lot of experience, building cabinets, and was one of the first cabinet makers to deploy a CNC machine to do precision cutting. So he, took kind of the manual process and moved it into the digital world. And then in doing that was like, man, why don't we make houses this way? Why aren't we using, technology to, precision, build houses? So that's kind of where it all started, is just our backgrounds, realizing, seeing what's happening, seeing kind of the decline in quality, and just thinking, when you automotive and many other industries, if you bought 2 cars that were the exact same, you would expect the doors to open the same. You would expect the radio to work the same. But in housing, we don't have that standard. You can frame the exact same house 4 different times, and you have 4 different outcomes. crooked walls, crooked studs, things out of place. You get material on site with a plan to build, but if the guys typically, they're going to grab the board that's closest to them. So if it's a 10-foot board and they need an 8-foot, they're going to cut 2 feet off. And then at the end, they're running back to the store to grab more material. So you don't, from a quality standpoint, don't have that, predictability. And from a cost standpoint, you're kind of crossing your fingers and hoping that, the material there is used. A lot of lumber companies, they send out, 20% extra material because they know that there's going to be, overages and things that are used wrong. So to mitigate that, we'll send you more. So our approach is a little bit different in that we, try to just send you only what you need, and nothing extra, and do all the heavy lifting on the front end on the engineering side, so that when the parts go together, if you build 4 homes, they're all the same. Every one of them came off the same floor, were cut on, the same machines, and that gives, the installers familiarity, so that each time, there's not a lot of thinking. It's not, if you lose your cut guy on your crew and you get a new one, they don't have to be trained, right, to make good cuts. It's already done for them. You don't have to teach how to read a tape measure. You don't have to, teach how to operate other tools. So we've kind of taken the hard part out of it, if you will, and do that in a computer model, and then so that it's easier for the end user in the field, the guys that are doing the heavy lifting, making it really easy for them, and giving the builder, just a higher certainty of outcome on that kind of first critical path in the construction project, which is the framing.
So is it like if I wanted to build a building with you, is it like I come to you and have an idea for how much room I have, and it's like working with an architect that will kind of design the space? Or is it more like, oh, we have these modular pieces or sections that just go together?
Great question. We do it, we have a portfolio of designs of things that we have built, but they've come, from builders that have plans from architects. So the nature of our system is, it's different from like a SIP panel house or a modular house, where there's these big sections that have to get, they got to make it down the road. They got to fit under bridges. They can't be super heavy. And we've, simplified it into, smaller little kernels, smaller little Legos that more pieces that can be put together. So when you transport, you don't have these limitations on your ceiling height and your wall height. We can design pretty much anything and just break it into smaller little Lego pieces that can be assembled. So with that, you don't lose any of the say curb appeal or the architectural piece of it. We can do, fun, overhangs and dormers, and really we don't have too many limitations. If it can be drawn in CAD, it can be built. So it gives us a lot more design flexibility.
Interesting. That was kind of going to lead into my next question, was how visually appealing can these be? I mean, when I think of Legos, you can only do so much with Legos, but it sounds like there's more flexibility.
Well, it seems that way on the smaller kits, but if you go to to Legoland, or you see the Millennial Falcon, that's 2,000 pieces, you can get pretty creative. So if you think back in a few years ago, when electric cars were coming out, they looked different. People could say, "Oh, that's an electric car. I don't want one of those. That's weird looking." Modular started out kind of the same way. We're like, we don't want a modular house. It looks like it's different than the other houses in my neighborhood. So a Construx house, you can't tell the difference. I mean, you'll tell the difference in the energy efficiency and just the overall sturdiness of the structure, due to our wall thicknesses and just the way in which it's built. But from the outside or inside, once it's covered with siding or drywall, it looks like every other house around it.
So you fabricate these framing systems using a single source, low carbon material. Can you tell us a little bit about that and explain what the benefits of it are?
Yeah, I mean, we use a 95% renewable OSB material, and it's not traditional OSB that you would see in just your basic sheet good. We use a premium material that's manufactured by Huber Engineered Wood called Advantech, and it's a very dense, water resistant, insect resistant, just super stable and sturdy, engineered product. So that's the what gives it a lot of the rigidity. And we also use 3/4 inch. I mean, the whole thing is built out of 3/4 inch subfloor. And when you're first at something, you have a lot of scrutiny, right? So you have to overbuild, I guess, if you will. Our in-house engineer said, don't ever say over-engineer. There's no such thing. But where we started this in Charleston, South Carolina, we have hurricanes, we have seismic, we have high humidity, we have tons of bugs. Like we have all the challenges in construction, poor soils, like everything exists here. So we were like, if we can build in Charleston, we'll be able to build, anywhere. So they were really designed in the beginning, much like, airplanes. Like you have these super rings. So your floor, your wall, your roof is essentially one truss, one support member. And then you fill in the middle with smaller little blocks. So in a typical home where you have walls and then your roof attaches to it with and then you have to put all these metal hurricane clips all around, and you get a high wind situation and the roof blows off and then everything kind of implodes. With this, it's a 6-sided interlocked box that is literally, this piece can't move because this piece is there, and it is, if a storm that's strong enough comes, it'll probably lift the entire house up and move it. There's not a piece of it that can blow off.
That's pretty cool. Are you locked into this certain material, or is that something you guys are keeping an eye out for, anything new that might, show up on the market or be developed?
Yeah, that is another great question. We are not tied to a specific material. We, started with part of our model is, let's use what's available in the marketplace. Let's use, what people have already developed that's suitable for this purpose, and adapt the use of it. So Huber never set out with their subfloor to be able to frame houses with it, but the material lends itself very well to that. Plywood, OSB, but it's also, what's in the market. So it's somewhat overkill for what we really need. There's a lot of mass and structure in this house. So as we grow, our vision to bring cost out of the actual home, bring the cost of building the home down, is to get more vertically integrated with the material, and to develop a spec that is designed and engineered just for what we're doing. So as we scale and we have the volume, then we feel that the big companies, the Weyerhaeusers, the Georgia Pacifics, the Hubers, will work with us to develop our own spec. But right now, there's no demand for it. If we said, hey, we want you to make a board that has these specifications, they're going to say, well, you need to buy 1 million sheets of it for us to be able to do that. And
Right.
We're not at that volume yet, but we hope to be able to engineer our own, material. And there's so many things out there, Ryan. They've got, there's an emerging technology with bio-based products, hemp-based products. There's a company out of North Carolina that's using essentially a grass to make a board. So the market is really kind of moving towards these more sustainable materials. Now the materials we use, the forested products, they're sustainable. There's a great lots of work that's been put into managing the forests, but it still takes 11 years to grow a pine tree that gets converted, where grasses or perennials, can take, a few months to grow, and have even higher strength to weight ratio than wood. So as that market, develops, we feel that there will be some emerging products, and we kind of want to lead, the R&D of those as well, to get, a board that can be produced in, as little as 9 months, versus 11 plus years.
So I'm going to put a plug in there that I think it'd be cool to figure out how to use old banana peels. Banana peels just seem to hang out around forever. So anyway, but no, I do want to ask you a serious question. So how does this all jibe with fortified housing? I assume that you're kind of attuned to that program as well. I know it has more to do with specific components like windows and roofs and so forth, but it just seems like you're ideally situated to really tap into the fortified trend as well.
Yeah, we've definitely looked into that and understand it. But you're right; it does incorporate more things. So with the framing system, we're about 15 to 18% of the overall house. So we provide a really strong and sturdy structure, but we don't get into the windows to the roof. So we definitely meet the criteria from a strength standpoint, energy efficiency standpoint, but it's been tough for us to get that certification because we're not the whole house. But you guys, that's somewhere, with the roofing business, you probably have, a similar challenge, and maybe, can offer us some advice on how to navigate that.
Yeah, it's definitely kind of taking the roofing industry by storm, no pun intended. But fortified comes up pretty regular around here anymore. That's for sure.
Yeah, I'm understanding it's from is 30 to up to 40% off your insurance rates to have it designated.
Wow, I didn't realize that. So where does the manufacturing of this stuff happen? Is it all taking place where you're at currently and needs to be shipped across the country, or are there any special machines kind of required?
Well, that's another, interesting and to me unique thing about our business model that will allow us to scale faster is the nature of our product doesn't require any super sophisticated specialized equipment. We're cutting shapes out of wood. We're building models in 3-dimensional in CAD. Then we're converting them into flat parts that are cut on a CNC machine and then reassembled into blocks that are then placed, step by step into a house. So what we found is, this equipment exists all over the place, all across America, and it's underutilized. The American furniture, industry, utilizes this, cutting, parts for furniture, cabinetry, all sorts of different, companies exist that use CNC machines, and we found that they have excess capacity. They've made the investments in the machine, and they have, the ability to add another shift, or a lot of times these machines are just idle. They use them for certain things, but the rest of the time they sit idle. So we've been able to develop a network of factories all across the country that have extra capacity or available capacity to cut these parts. Then the assembly process is very easy. It's a rubber mallet and glue and staples. So if you can put a puzzle together. It's actually probably easier than a puzzle because the pieces are thicker and there's less of them. So that makes the labor pool is really broad for that type of activity. So our goal is to be able to manufacture within 300 miles of any given market, to cut down on the transportation and again continue to bring costs down to make the homes more affordable.
I'm kind of curious. You mentioned comparison to a puzzle, and yeah, my wife does the 1,000-piece puzzles. But about how many pieces or individual components would there be in a typical house? Are we talking hundreds or thousands or?
Yeah, it's going to be in the hundreds. So you're going to have our most popular model is a 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath. 1,500 square feet, story and a half, and it's about 500 pieces.
Okay.
So there's about, say, 70 different pieces that make that up. So a lot of them are repeated, repeated parts. So
Well, your videos are really interesting to watch how it all goes together. Really fascinating stuff.
thank you. Yeah, our largest piece is, probably 80 pounds. It's 2 feet wide by 8 feet long by 8 inches thick. That's probably the most common part. So 2 people can easily install that.
What's the time frame on that? Like you talked about your most popular model. How long would it take for that to be put together?
That takes, if you have 4 people working and then one person managing the instructions and kind of quarterbacking it, then you can do it in 5 or 6 days.
Wow.
Once you're good at it and you throw more people at it, so you can build these homes like Team Red starts over here and Team Yellow starts over here, and we work towards the middle. You could build it in a day if you had the right number of people. We do single story affordable homes that are like say 24 feet wide by 52 feet long, that are just all equal spacings, no dormers, no staircases, no second floors, and those are 3 days to build.
That's pretty cool. Our listeners are going to think puzzle is one of our challenge words, but it's not. But you guys both threw it out, and I had the question in my head. I was going to say, when I saw the video, it reminded me of it, like a big 3D puzzle, basically.
It kind of is, and without the challenge of trying to figure out which, it's like a puzzle, but they're all border pieces, right? They're all the same pieces.
Oh.
So you're not searching, does that look right? And going over here, like but they fit together like a puzzle, and everything self-aligns. So everything is indexed and has tabs. And when it fits in, it just self-aligns. So you don't need tape measures. You don't need levels. Like the system itself is, all self-aligning.
I want to go back to talking about, you briefly touched on the job site waste. Can you go into that a little more and kind of talk about your processes that you have there? What does that look like? Like, how much have you cut back on job site waste by using something like this?
We have zero waste. Any waste is created at the factory and is then recycled into animal bedding, a number of other things. So the what shows up on site is it's only what you need. And when the last piece is up, the house is done. There's nothing left over. There's nothing missing. And, there's, you have, you need a trash can on site because you're using adhesive to put these parts into place. So you'll have, empty cans, but it's no need for a dumpster.
So you said it takes a hammer, glue, and staples. Is that what you said?
Yeah, it's the parts are all held together, with friction joints, and like mortises, and then we glue them for added, kind of a second layer of defense, and then we just staple them into place with like a 7/16 by 1.5 inch staple. But the strength and rigidity is in the friction joints.
Kind of makes me think of good old furniture that we just don't get anymore.
Yeah, dovetail joints and I forgot the name of that box that it's like a little I think it comes from Asia, but it's like a trick box. It's got all these joints in it, and you can't get it apart unless you know the secret place to push on it. So it's a lot like that. Once it goes together, it's just all interlocked, and and you get it. The other beautiful thing of this is you get a digital twin of your home, so you get all the files. Like what is behind the walls. Where it is. So if you want to do an addition, or you want to add a doorway in at some point, or you need to make a repair, you know exactly what needs to go there. So you can take that file It's just a DXF file that you would take to pretty much any cabinet shop locally. They're not going to want to build the entire house because maybe they don't have the space or the equipment, but to build, one or two boxes to fit in that space is no different than, designing up a cabinet box and cutting it.
What about energy efficiency? I mean, you kind of touched on extreme climates or weather or seismic. What about? I'm assuming these are pretty energy efficient too. Then,
yeah, they're very energy efficient. We use undersized units. That's a lot of our structures are. We use mini split systems because they're the only conventional systems just to have too much tonnage for the size of structures we're building. But we have 8-inch walls, which gives you a 6.5-inch wall cavity, so you can get really high R value out of that. And then the OSB itself has a I think an R value of somewhere around 2. So these are really, really tight structures. We almost compare these, to like a Yeti cooler, right? That's going to hold your ice for days and days because it's thick, it's super well insulated, and it's super tight. Yeah, high HERS ratings, and depending on the climate. I mean, we're around here we're R40 all the way around, walls, roof, floor.
Are there any challenges you've faced or encountered in trying to convince traditional builders or contractors to adopt something like this, or is it kind of a no-brainer?
Convincing contractors and builders to try something new is always a challenge.
You live that comment, by the way.
I got my training for the first half of my career with Milwaukee Tool, and when we were trying to convert the world off of DeWalt nickel cadmium batteries to lithium ion, and everyone was like, "No way, I'm not doing that. It's new, it's more expensive." Milwaukee, they're whole hogs and bandsaws. They're not, cordless tools. Plus I've got 200 batteries and 50 tools on this. So you're not changing me at all. Well, fast forward, 15 years later and, everything's lithium ion, right? So it is a tough adoption curve. But part of why we really focused on just the framing is because of that adoption curve. It's a smaller piece of it. We're not trying to layer new on top of new on top of new. We're not trying to say, hey, we have this framing system and we have this siding system and we have this window system and we have this roofing system. Like, we just want to solve work on one problem, which is a true pain point. Every builder will tell you framing is a pain point. So when they see this, they're like, this is a viable solution. So then it comes down to cost, and depending on the market, compared to California, we're half the cost as it costs to frame there. Canada is the same way, but then you get in areas like Oklahoma, Arkansas, Texas, framing is really, really cheap. So we're 10-15% higher. So I think that's really the challenge on some markets is we see the benefit, we love it, but it's still really cheap to stick frame a house. So so the adoption, they get it, but I think our biggest challenge in that is cost and continuing to because when you're better, faster, stronger, it's great. But when you're better, faster, stronger, and cheaper, then it's a no-brainer. There's also limitations, right? We're not a fit for everyone. Like these, large custom homes with a bunch of chopped up roof lines and just, an average, a 1,500 to 2,000 square foot house will take us, a couple hundred hours of design time for an engineer to model these up. So just the cost that goes into creating converting this or building this into a digital, system that could be cut is at some point doesn't make sense on just, large custom homes yet. But we feel technology is advancing. AI is, making, major advancements. And I think, in the next few years, like software will be able to do a lot of the heavy lifting on the design side, and maybe we do get there.
What about like the commercial side, like apartments, condos? That seems to me like it'd be a really easy, they're all the same kind of repeating. Is that something you work with, or?
Yeah, there's no constraints in the system for being able to do that. It's really just we don't, we started in residential. We understand that world very, very well, what's required, the load rating. So, and we've spent a tremendous amount of dollars in testing, working with universities, third-party testing to get to the system we have. So it's just a matter of making additional investment to to show how we, exceed standards of commercial construction. But the system, you're right. It's the same thing. It's in some ways easier, less architectural features, just kind of square boxes. But it'll be a future iteration.
Do you have any examples of projects in mind of where your system is kind of, been used and really, blown it out of the water in terms of performance or aesthetics or both?
Yeah, I think, we do very well in the sub 2,000 square foot. So kind of that 800 to 900 square foot accessory dwelling, to, the 3-bedroom, 2-bath, the area that the larger builders don't want to necessarily, play in. From a margins perspective. So the smaller, that's kind of been our niche to date, and we really shine there because it's really fast to assemble. An 800 square foot accessory dwelling, like 2 days to put it together in a backyard that. You're not disturbing neighbors, and with saws and machinery. So I would say that kind of smaller starter home.
Is that something that could be a one-person job?
I think it's it would be tough for it to be a one-person job, but I think it could be a two-person job. Some of these places, like somebody needs to hold it in place while it gets stapled, or two people need to lift it up and put it in at the same time. It would be, a lot of work for one person. But we do have a guy on our staff. He's one of our engineers, but he's 6'9" and built like a tank, and he could build one of these by himself.
Yeah, I definitely am not that. I'm asking because I'm like imagining an office that's outside of the home in my backyard. That's not quite a shed, a little more than a shed, but it's been a dream of mine for a while.
I'm curious. You mentioned that, ideally you'd like this idea of being within 300 miles. Is that pretty much the footprint you've been within so far, or have you been able to venture out beyond that footprint with some of the jobs you've already done?
We're doing jobs. We have a job in Maine right now. We have a job in Florida. We have a job in Texas. We have a job in Georgia. So we're doing all of that out of one facility because, to the factory that we're using, we want that excess capacity. So we need to give them the volume and the work to be able to give that to us. So
Gotcha.
as we fill that capacity, then we'll move to other factories. But it's been our experience that it's better to fill up 100% of capacity and then move, and versus one here, because they just don't. Without the volume, the factories aren't that interested in doing one house here or there. But so we're kind of subsidizing the shipping on some of those just to make it the projects make sense, to be able to do that. Look, you guys saw us on a video online. Like it's 90 days ago, I think, is when we first did any public marketing. We've been kind of in stealth mode, and in the beginning, we built about 30 homes, and we were essentially our own customer, our own GCs, because we needed to work out all the kinks, develop all the assembly guides, make all the videos, just make sure that when we send this product to a builder, that the experience is really good and it's as easy as we say it is. So we put a lot of effort and time and resources into the upfront work and have just now really launched to to outside builders.
Final question here before we kind of wrap up. What advice would you give to any young entrepreneurs or innovators that are looking to disrupt the construction industry like you guys are?
Oh, wow. I think, focus in on what you do well and what your core competency is. I think the construction industry, as I mentioned before, is one of the hardest industries to adapt to new technology. They're very resistant to change. We've been doing things the same way for so long. If it's broke, don't fix it. So focusing on what you do really well and not trying to deploy too much new and doing it in smaller chunks, I think is a advice. And then try to leverage or apply technology in the right areas. What we see and what we're doing is, the next generation of builders, they grew up building with games like Minecraft. So they're very familiar with putting blocks together and designing things in a computer and seeing it. They didn't grow up with, tape measures and saws and being able to, make, complex cuts, or even understanding, what those, mistakes are. So I think focusing on to us, the next generation, the future of builders is where, we feel we'll be successful, versus trying to convert people that have been doing it the same way, for the last 40 years.
That's really interesting. And this has come up before, but what you said about like Minecraft and stuff, that blows my mind. And I've asked people, our guests before, what they think is going to come of these kids that are building these ridiculous. I mean, they spend days building these ridiculous worlds out of blocks. And I'm just, curious where that's gonna lead to in the future.
Yeah. Well, I think with a system like Construx, every house, every new design we do adds to our library of parts. So eventually we're going to have such a large library of parts that these kids or any designer can just pick and choose and design their own homes. Like I envision, configurator on our website in the not too distant future, where you can literally go and build exactly what you want. It'll tell you exactly what it's going to cost, because it'll calculate the exact, usage of materials and cut time, so that you, within, a half hour on a website, can know exactly what your framing package is going to cost, and exactly how long it's going to take to put it together, and exactly how long it's going to take to get to you, and no, plus or minus budget. It's precision.
Well, thanks so much, Rob. This has been great. We're thankful for the time we've had with you today. Just about to wrap up what we call the business end of things. Is there anything that we haven't covered that you'd like to share with our audience?
I don't think so. I think we covered everything.
Well, before we close out, we like to do a little something fun here at the end called rapid fire. These are 7 questions that are kind of serious. Some can be serious. Most of them are silly. All you got to do is give a quick response. Are you up for the challenge?
I am.
Awesome. Todd and I will alternate asking questions. Do you want to go first, Todd?
Absolutely. Question number 1, Rob. If you could invent a holiday, what would it be called, and how would people celebrate it?
Oh, wow.
That's a hard one.
It kind of is.
I don't know. I think I would want to create a float fest holiday where everybody takes an inner tube out to a river and floats down it. Like, that's a pastime that I grew up doing in Arkansas, and I tried to bring that to Charleston and our tidal creeks, and starting to take off here on Johns Island. But I think everyone deserves a day out on the water floating in an inner tube.
Love it. Good answer.
Yeah, great answer. That is fun. A lot of fun. Question number 2. What's the weirdest thing you've ever eaten and actually liked?
Oh, I was in the Peace Corps in South America, in Ecuador, and a delicacy there is called cuy, which is a guinea pig. So guinea pig is actually pretty good.
Does it taste like chicken?
It does.
Yeah.
Really interesting. I'll think about that one. Okay, next question. If you could be a fly on a wall or a fly on a wall someplace, where would you land and what would you eavesdrop on?
Other than being in the room after I have calls with developers and builders to hear, what they're really thinking, that's on my mind lately. Is how did that go? What are they thinking? What are the next steps?
Could learn a lot from that.
Yeah,
That's a good answer.
I think I may eavesdrop on people who are eating guinea pig for the first time, just kind of see what that's all about.
Question number 4. Who has been the biggest influence in your life and how have they shaped you?
I think that's a team. I think my years at Milwaukee Tool and working with world-class people, taking a company, from 100 million in sales to 2 billion in a decade, just took
Wow.
that. I feel like I got the equivalent of several master's degrees in different areas. So that leadership team, which is still in place today, was just I think very influential in teaching me all aspects, but really how to disrupt and how to we're going to upset a lot of people in what we're doing, but truly disruptive, game-changing innovation. Innovation is a word that's used a lot, and what true innovation is not changing the color of something or changing this, but like truly disruptive, industry-changing. This is how things are done in the future. I attribute it to that team.
Very cool. Wow, that would be an interesting topic all on its own to have on a show sometime. That is, I didn't realize Milwaukee Tool went through that kind of growth in that kind of time period, but fascinating. Next question. What do you hope to accomplish in the next 5 years?
I want this to be a mainstream, Construx, a recognized name in the industry, a system that's truly changing how things are done. And I want, to see more and more people copy it, take charge and use digital fabrication to build homes. I think it's the future. I think it's, we know the current way is not sustainable. So I would like to, in 5 years have, competition and, be able to start solving, the shortage and being able to build, truly more houses. That's what this is all about. Is people deserve a home. People deserve to be in a house and that they can afford. And it's not just us. This is global. The need is everywhere. So I just want to be able to hopefully see that trend as we can't build enough to like now we're getting closer and closer to that, eating into that deficit.
Well, I love what you're doing. Great concept and product for sure.
Question number 6. This one is not very gossamer. It's pretty serious, so you can take a few seconds to think about it. But would you rather have hands for feet or feet for hands?
Well, I think I would rather have hands for feet.
Yeah, I'm with you.
I stub my toe a lot, so I've got one of those extra long middle toes, that just shoes aren't designed for, so I end up stubbing that toe a lot.
Last question. So what is a product or service maybe that you've purchased recently that was just a real game changer for you? Sort of a, where's this been all my life moment?
I just got a 0-turn lawnmower. I've got 6 acres and I've had a, just a regular riding lawnmower and, I've wanted one. And I mean, every summer I've been like, I'm going to get one this year. And I finally got a 0-turn and that's given me like a weekend back, at least in the time savings and it's fun. Like, I look forward to it. Like, I'm like, I wish the grass would go a little faster.
I drove my first 0-turn last weekend. We were at my in-laws and I hopped on it. I was doing some stuff to it and drove it around a little bit. And I'm like, this is fun. Like I would mow out here for fun. I think I couldn't. couldn't get it to go straight. So I don't know that my lines would be straight, but
that's okay. Like designs in the grass are like, that's the new thing.
yeah. Just do zigzags. Well, Rob, thank you again for your time today. For anyone that wants to get in touch with you, what's the best way they can do that?
You can go through our website, buildconstructs.com, and LinkedIn, Instagram. We check everything. So
awesome. We will put all that in the show notes. Well, before we close out here, we've got to recap our challenge words. We were all successful, although I'm not sure I even used mine right, but I had to throw it in there. Rob, your challenge word was
Kernel,
and you did a great job working that in pretty early.
Very nice.
Todd, your word was...
I had banana, and I worked it in a dorky way, but I got it in there.
Might have been obvious on that one.
Might have been a little obvious.
Might have been. And mine probably was too. Mine was gossamer. Well, thanks so much. Again, Rob, we appreciate you being here.
Yeah, thank you guys for the opportunity.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for tuning into this episode of Construction Disruption with Rob Bertschy, co-founder and chief revenue officer of Construx. Please watch for future episodes of our podcast. We are always blessed with great guests. And don't forget to leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or give us a thumbs up on YouTube. Till the next time we're together, keep on disrupting and challenging those in your world to better ways of doing things. Don't forget to have a positive impact on everyone you encounter. Make them smile and encourage them. 2 simple yet powerful things we can all do to change the world. God bless and take care. This is Isaiah Industries signing off until the next episode of Construction Disruption.
This podcast is produced by Isaiah Industries, manufacturer of specialty metal roofing and other building products.